What's up?
Hey, we wanted to go over the next programming cycle upcoming in our program on Train Heroic. We've got a new 8-week cycle starting this week. And this week we're going to be focusing on.
Upper body stuff. We're going to be doing some strength-based pressing and skill-based pressing. So for strength-based, we're going to be focusing on pressing in the angle of dips. We're also going to be doing some Turkish get-ups and some circus press. So those are a little more skill dominant, but they're really fun. They also carry over well to things like the bent press, so we'll maintain all of that stuff.
And Grayson's going to be working on trying to get me up in a Turkish get-up by the end of this cycle. So if any of you guys can lift your girlfriend or wife
In a Turkish get-up.
or large daughter,
Yeah, that's cool.
you get a free session with us. We'll give you a free session.
Free PT session
and
for
we'll
whatever you want.
Definitely post it on our Instagrams because that sounds like fun. It's hard.
We'd love to see it.
Yeah. We can even update you guys on the process a little bit as we're messing around with it. So Grayson,
Totally.
at one point in time, back when we had our first gym, got me up in a Turkish get-up. I
can
weighed
do it.
like 145. You weighed 185. It was pretty epic.
Yeah, I'm stronger now, even if it was almost 20 years ago.
Yep. I still weigh 145. He weighs 20 pounds heavier. So yeah, Turkish get-ups and circus press. Circus press is a strongman lift. If you're not familiar with that, you can play around with it. But again, in our program, we always emphasize that like if you're not interested in some of the old-time strongman or strongman lifts that we're doing, you're welcome to either skip some of those, especially if it's just an additional skill, or switch things out. So like we're going to also do Zercher squats. For the squat, I personally don't like putting heavy bars on my elbows. I don't do them. Just before we did this, he's telling me that I should be Zerchering and
Get some elbow skin.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that.
No,
So
that's probably one of the biggest advantages, though, of having such an emphasis in the program where you're just training joint function is that once you get to the actual exercise, you have a lot of freedom to plug and play stuff and still get good results with it. So, we realize we have bias towards certain things that we like, but we don't expect that everybody else does. So it is totally cool to switch that stuff out for things that just feel more friendly or you're more interested in. So
yeah.
options are good.
And we try to help you guys identify whether or not an exercise is right for you. We have the self-assessments that come up on Sundays, which are the same day that this video is going to appear on. Encourage you to go through that self-assessment and to just identify whether or not you're appropriate for certain things. So for example, we're going to be doing dips, but if you don't have good shoulder internal rotation, if you don't have good shoulder extension, dips can be pretty rough to load heavily. So we would recommend substituting something else for that, like a bench press is a little bit less shoulder extension.
Similar mechanics, slightly less demanding angle.
Yeah, or some sort of an incline press. It just depends on what works for your shoulder. Squatting is not everyone's cup of tea. If you've got hip issues, if you've got limited hip internal rotation, that makes loading a deep squat tough on your hip. Switching to something that's more of a single leg option so that you don't go so deep into the hip would be better for you. So yeah.
As always, though, if you're having trouble with that stuff, reach out for that 30-minute one-on-one so we can help you figure that stuff out if you're having trouble. Before we go on too long, what else are we doing? Lower body. Jefferson
deadlifts.
Jefferson deadlift. That, if you're not familiar with that, that's a deadlift where you are actually straddling the bar but facing forward. So one leg in front, one leg behind, kind of like B stance, but it's also a cool old-time deadlift variation. It's fun to explore and cool to load that one. Yeah.
And just like we did with the hack last cycle, we're probably going to alternate back and forth between either a sumo or conventional, because a lot of us aren't necessarily ready to go heavy on a Jefferson, but it's kind of a fun thing to play with. Some of us are ready, so
Totally.
we'll just kind of try to play with that in the programming so that it's not crazy heavy deadlifts every week.
Yeah.
That's why we do 8-week cycles too, in case you're wondering, because we kind of bounce back and forth between dynamic effort or connective tissue training with heavy stuff, because doing heavy high intensity to failure week in and week out is just, it's overdoing it. It's just too much. But
It's more than you need to make progress in reality.
it is, and it may be even working against you. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoy this cycle. Reach out. Again, like Grayson said, if you've been in the program for a month, you get a free half hour with us to use any way you like. Whatever you want to do, we're down for a half an hour.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, we also totally forgot to mention or discuss the whole capsule and mobility focus section. So Capsule and mobility this time, we're going to be doing capsule still, but we're also going to try to get some splits. We get a lot of questions about doing splits programs, and we typically don't do them because we find that so many people still need so much work on their capsules. So if you have really limited capsules, we recommend starting there first because the capsule is the most important part of the joint. So if you lack space in the joint capsule, this tightness here, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get range of motion here. So a lot of the limitations that people find trying to get a split is actually capsular. So if you're still working on capsule space, you're still working on rotation, that's really the main priority. If you have capsule space and you want to move on to the splits, we're going to make that an opportunity this section. Also, the way that this capsule deal is intended to be used, it's intended to be a substitute, so not really in addition to. We also recommend kind of bouncing back and forth, like occasionally taking a strength cycle off and just sticking with capsules. Even if it's just 4 weeks, even if you break that 8-week cycle up and do half of it on capsules, or you can switch and do upper body internal strength model, lower body capsules, and then the next cycle pop back that way. The main strength stuff is going to still pop up in the capsule work. It's just on maintenance. So it's much less competitive with your capsule gains. If your body is in desperate need of capsule space, you really want to stop and focus on that capsule space because doing something like a squat program over and over and over again when you lack hip internal rotation, the squat is continuing to steal from hip internal rotation. So it's kind of driving you towards a hip replacement. Which you don't want. And so for the sake of longevity, it's very easy to maintain back squat numbers. It's easy to maintain body mass. You can just back off on trying to drive progress on strength and hypertrophy, stay where you are, and drive progress on building capsule space. And that will be a dramatic improvement to the longevity of your joints, your likelihood of injury, how everything feels and functions when you do regular training sessions, all that stuff. So if you haven't done the capsule stuff yet, I really highly recommend switching over to that for a cycle or two, or mix and match, and that's it. Okay, thanks.